Is my audio working?
Yes, it is. Is mine?
Yep, sounds great. I'm on my phone.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure that the stream is working. It was giving me a hassle about that was weird because I was just playing back the live stream. You were got confused for a minute.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Got too many controls happening.
Hey everyone.
Hi, Tim.
How's it going?
Good. This is a historic Doug because we've got streaming happening and we've got a recording happening. So
It's pretty intense. We're living in the future, clearly.
we're in the future for sure. Yeah.
Future doesn't have as much pizza, but still, it's good.
And we're presenting on a feature that was only released, yesterday? We are like
yes.
on the ball. This is so amazing.
Cool. I assume we'll give a few more minutes for other folks to trickle in.
Yeah, we are just gonna hang out. Feel free to chat amongst us.
Hi, Tim.
Hey.
So, hey, how is everybody?
Not bad.
Charles, you look like you're from the future. Like you're like in a space suit or I don't know. That's cool.
He's got a flashlight underneath.
Yeah.
You can tell us scary stories.
Well, the reality is my office is really messy, so I've got the lights completely off. The only light is the monitor.
Nice.
So you can't see a thing, and it looks like, wow, I'm really on the ball.
It's
The
background
illusion
hack.
is complete.
Yeah, I'm not at that level. Although Amber's background is awesome. The falls.
I splurged. I got one of those background panel things. It's Multnomah Falls.
Now is that bridge from before they had to do the bridge repair or after?
I don't know. I don't know.
I like when I saw it recently, you could sort of tell which sections of the railing were the repaired section, but I guess
I did notice that there's someone hiding in the bridge, like crouched down, and like I could see her
trying to stay out of the shot.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I don't know.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll give it we'll wait a couple more minutes for people to find us. And yeah,
One thing I was thinking, I suppose, since it is Veterans Day, I figured it might be nice to, I don't know if anyone here or anybody's folks in their teams or families is either, military or Teach for America or other civil service kind of thing. But if so, thanks all around. We have one person on my engineering team who's a vet, so it was a
nice.
good moment. Good to acknowledge
We
today.
we might have a presentation next month on va.gov, which
Oh,
is
that would be awesome.
I think it's the Veterans Administration site, and they it was a project that's actually been presented on at several events this year. I think at GovCon and maybe a couple of others. I can't remember, but I guess it's a decoupling case study. So it's a little crazy this month, so it didn't work out for today, but
No
but
worries.
maybe next month. But if even so, like you might go find the presentation, just Google Drupal va.gov and you can find the presentation on, I would check GovCon, I think is probably a good bet because that was pretty
Yeah.
recent.
I would imagine. Obviously we're in the PDX meetup, but without doxing anyone, since we're live streaming, approximately where is everybody? I'm over in Northeast myself, so around Alberta.
I'm in
I'm
Tiger.
on Tiger, nice. I'm on the west side, not Hawaii.
Not that far.
I'm near Mount Tabor.
Oh, nice.
I'm southeast as well,
Cool.
a little more east from Mount Tabor, but by the freeway.
Yeah, I used to live in sort of Reed neighborhood and woke up one morning and realized it had been 5 years since we moved into Northeast. But
And we've got Patrick saying in the chat, Hazeldale. So yay.
nice.
Yay, James is here. Yay. Not from the Northwest. So nice to have these online meetups because we can have Drupalists from everywhere, anywhere.
Yeah. Hi, James.
Yeah. So I found my 2020 background for the Zoom.
Yes, quite.
Classic.
Oh.
That's awesome. Well, why don't I get started with some announcements and kind of, it's probably old news for most of you, but just in case, I always like to go over where we meet and where you can find announcements. And so we're on groups.drupal.org/Portland. So I'll put that into the chat here. If you haven't joined this group, you'll need a Drupal.org account, and then you can go to this, and then I think there's a join link. I think that's what it's called, and that will get you. You can choose how you want to be notified, but you can get emails when we have announcements. We also have a group on meetup.com, and so we're double posting there. And please join us on the Drupal Slack. It's Drupal-PDX is our community, and please join us there. If you, it's informal chat, but it's also like troubleshooting help if you need another set of eyes or want to bounce some questions off of people. Don't expect an immediate response, but usually same day, sometime during the day, you'll get a response from someone who's would like to help out. So please join us there. We're a friendly group. And then we have this meeting the second Wednesday of the month, which is our presentation Drupal user group. And so we have a speaker or show and tell or lightning talks or something like that. And then before times we had Drupal. which was our fourth Tuesday. And we're doing that online as well, but we shifted it to a lunchtime meetup. So it's like 1 p.m. or something like that. So in the middle of the day, so that time can work better for folks. So that's been, other organizers have been working on that. So we kind of just, whoever is available to help organize that, will jump in there. So that's another opportunity to connect with the group. And if you have ideas about how, especially for the fourth Tuesday, because we, this is kind of new to meet online for that. If you have a topic that you want to present on or show and tell or anything like that, yeah, just let us know. And the best way to do that is to join the Drupal PDX Slack community. And my name is Amber Matz, I should mention. So I'm Amber Matz on there. And yeah, ping me if you want to present at any time at any of the meetups. I would love to hear from you. So otherwise I'll track you down. Like I'll hear a rumor of someone who might have something. Yeah. Once I track you down, the guilt trip is real. So, it's hard to resist. So
It really is.
So it's better to like just volunteer, and it's easier on everyone. So, I'm teasing sort of. Okay. Well, we've got a,
and she will schedule you.
yeah. So I'm actually serious. So yeah. Yeah, please let me know if you've got an idea to speak. And it doesn't have to be this super polished talk. It's just like, if you've got something that you've been learning and you want to share, that's fair game right there. So yeah. Okay, well, we have a very special guest today. Tim is here from the DA and the Drupal Association, and he's going to talk to us about this change request, which I'm going to change record, which I'm going to paste in here. So I hope that was right.
Oh yeah, it's got some extra query parameters, but I think it's
yeah, it's a bit of a mess. But it's enabling issue forks and merge requests for all Drupal.org hosted projects. And you might be thinking, what the heck does that mean? Well, we're about to answer that for you. So, and by we, I mean Tim here is going to answer that for you. So, and Tim, go ahead and get started. But also, like, if you want me to share the screen and show that YouTube demo, just let me know when you want me to queue that up, and I'm happy to do that. Or if you
sure. I could also share screen directly, unless it's better for you to do it for the way that this streaming stuff works. I'm not sure.
I have no idea. I'm happy to do it though. So.
Okay. Oh, it looks like I don't have permission. So if you can give it to me, that's good. Otherwise, I'll send you the link. But let me start with some introduction stuff. So yes, thank you, Amber. As Amber said, I'm Tim. I'm hestenet on Drupal.org. Most of you have seen an email or a blog post or a tweet with my name attached. I've been working with the Drupal Association since 2014. And I've been on Drupal.org coming up on 15 years now. So yeah, I'm on the engineering side. And before I get specifically into the issue forks and merge request feature, I figured I'd give some kind of background and history and also talk a little bit about the kinds of things the DA does. So feel free to jump in anytime. This is casual. As Amber said, we launched this feature yesterday, so there's not a whole big presentation prepared, but I can go on rambling. So if anyone has questions, feel free to interrupt and or drop things in chat, and I'll keep an eye out for that. But as general background, the Drupal Association's engineering team is specifically tasked with maintaining Drupal.org, but in a more sort of mission-centric sense, our job on the engineering side is to create all of the tools that enable the community to build Drupal, right? So we want people to be able to get involved in the community more easily. We want the contribution tools to be as low friction as they reasonably can be. And we want that contributor experience on Drupal.org to be sort of the best that it can be. On top of that, of course, we do all the things to try and keep the lights on and keep projects hosted and other sorts of things. Lately, our role has evolved a little bit more because Drupal.org is getting more tightly coupled to Drupal itself as the software, right? So in the age of Composer, where we have to maintain a dependency management endpoint, a packages endpoint, it's now sort of the Drupal.org services and Drupal Association built services are not just like support structure for Drupal, but your composer command is phoning home to us to get all the information about the hosted projects and all those kinds of things. So we try and take pretty seriously that responsibility of fostering the project and making contribution what it could be. So some general background, yeah, it looks like the screen share is probably not going to be a thing. So I'll drop some links in and maybe you can share for me, Amber.
Yeah, I've got it queued up here, so I will go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so let me actually, can I have you share another link really quickly first? I just want to show people this is just a little historical introduction. As you can tell, I'm trying to pad things out just slightly.
Okay, yeah.
So this link that I posted, which you can open yourself and that which Amber will share for people watching this recording or watching this live, is a link to the blog post on Drupal.org that was kind of the kickoff of modernizing the contribution tools for Drupal, right? So as you can see, this initiative goes back to 2017, December of 2017 is when this was posted. And this was the first of like a 7-part, ultimately, blog series where we did a huge evaluation of all the different ways that people contribute, how they use the current issue queues, how they use the current Git workflow. And then we looked at a bunch of different tooling options. So we looked at using GitLab, GitHub, Atlassian Bitbucket, all sorts of different things. And we compared a lot of options. We had committees from the community of people who had worked on different projects outside of Drupal and had their recommendations and put all this together. And ultimately, we chose GitLab. We plugged them in as the backend for all of our Git services, replacing what had been entirely home-built Git servers that the engineering team had been maintaining for 10 plus years, and beginning to give us these more advanced collaboration features. I've started to talk to people at DrupalCon contribution days who basically have never heard of patch workflows, right? Their entire technical training in open source has been in the post GitHub pull request universe. And so ultimately, in addition to getting good code viewing and code review tools and all that kind of stuff to view commits in the GitLab interface, we really wanted to actually have pull requests or merge requests, as GitLab calls them. So we're going to switch to a video in just a second, which I just recorded this morning. So, and this video will demonstrate how we ultimately integrated that merge request feature into the Drupal.org issue queues. What was really important to us in the tooling evaluation is that Drupal works differently from other open source projects. We don't, on GitHub, when you have a contribution to a particular open source project, it works on this sort of fork of fork of fork model. You wind up with conversations in different places that are hard to track and hard to follow. And typically, you don't have 3 or 4 or more collaborators working on a single branch of a single one of those forks. You wind up with 2 or 3, and they're pull requests back to each other, and then eventually all winding up back on the main issue. And we wanted to keep Drupal.org's issues with that single-threaded conversation and all the metadata that we use to manage what version it's for the core development process, all that stuff we really wanted to keep, but we wanted to have all the modern merge request stuff. So that's what we finally launched literally yesterday. So Amber's going to share that now. There's no audio, there's some subtitles. I'll put the link directly to the video in chat in case it's too choppy through a stream as well. And then I'll sort of talk over this a little bit, although hopefully not too much.
Just let me know when you want me to hit play.
Yeah, so that link is in chat as well if you want to follow that separately. Go ahead and hit play, Amber. So there we go. So this little demo starts off by just looking at a generic kind of core contribution, right? So as usual, if you've done any contribution on Drupal.org, it starts off by creating that issue for whatever's going to happen. And then you'll see this new section here, this create issue fork green button right here. which will create it with a new branch. And what's happening is this is doing some API calls to our GitLab instance and generating a workspace to collaborate on. And it'll give you all the Git commands that if you want to work on this from the command line. But what's sort of new about this is you can also go directly into this new workspace in the GitLab UI and do your entire contribution without touching the command line. Do it all from your browser. So here I have a fork of Drupal core assigned to that specific issue with its own dedicated branch. I'm just using the web editor to change the README file. I'm creating a merge request using the GitLab UI to do so. The defaults, I can adjust the comments if I want to do that. But when it comes to the merge options and whether it's a squash or whatever, the defaults are set by our configuration. So I just kind of have to submit it. And we can see GitLab creates a merge request. And if we go back to Drupal.org, there's now a merge request appearing next to that issue fork up top. And it started Drupal CI automated integration tests to make sure that this is going to pass with Drupal core. And I can add ad hoc tests. And if I go back into the merge request in GitLab, as you can see here, and put a comment, say, on the merge request, that activity is actually posted back to Drupal.org's issue. So I'm not going to lose any of the threaded conversation or code review conversation happening on the GitLab side. I'll be able to see it all there on the Drupal.org issue. So if I'm a maintainer and this issue got to RTBC, I go here and there's actually also a new sort of ease of use button. There is a merge button. And this takes the automatically generated Git command that has the like, this is the issue and here's who we've credited on the issue, and uses that as the merge commit and merges in to the upstream. So that's something that, of course, only the maintainers will have permission on. But I can then resolve the issue after merging. And again, all of this activity got posted back into the issue. And it's all right there, easy to see. So this is just a 3-minute long video demo kind of showing off the feature. That's kind of all there is to it. And I know in some ways it seems old hat because everybody's been doing pull requests on GitHub for years now, but it's also a really big milestone for D.O and some of the integration work that we had to do to make that work. Definitely took some effort and even took some collaboration with the GitLab team to create some APIs we needed. So yeah, with that, the purpose here was sort of to demonstrate, hey, you can now do a complete contribution, even if it's in the core issue queue, browser only, no local dev environments, no local tools. We have another feature. I don't have an example link handy, but alongside this, next to any merge request in the core queue only, you can also get a Simply Test Me style preview built using Tugboat QA, which is a sister company of Lullabot, and they worked with us to put that together. And those previews let you kind of do that visual testing. So between the live previews and being able to do the whole contribution workflow in your browser, we should be able to onboard new contributors much more quickly. You can do a complete contribution even to core without any local development tools, without command line. And hopefully that's going to unlock things for a lot of folks. So I'll pause for a moment because that went really fast. I didn't realize how quickly that demo would fly by me as I was trying to talk over it. But thoughts, questions, initial reactions? Anything confusing?
Really quick, I think this is the right link about the Tugboat
Yes,
preview.
it is.
Okay, so I posted that in the chat. And yeah, it's the Drupal.org integration with Tugboat QA for live previews on core issues.
Yeah, just posted.
But any questions for Tim?
Or reactions, or even what the heck are you talking about? I don't get it. Anything's fine.
For those of us who are familiar with Git merges and Git workflows, can you talk a little bit about the specifics of what Git commands are happening behind the scenes when you're like clicking those buttons in the Drupal issue queue?
Yeah, I can try and do my best here. So there's a few things going on. So one of the things that you'll see as well, it was in the demo, but we went over past it pretty quickly, is you will see a list of commands that you can expand next to any issue fork to do all of this traditionally from the command line, right? So if for whatever reason you didn't want to use GitLab at all, you can still use pure command line git to add a remote for this new issue fork, to fetch the fork in the branch, to check it out, make changes, commit those. You could even open a merge request all from the command line side. What's particularly happening as we go through, there's a set of APIs on the GitLab side that basically we use the issue metadata to identify what project you're on, what branch you're developing against, and create a fork in this sort of dedicated issue fork workspace. And it's one fork per issue, and sort of as many branches within that fork as you want. Access is granted to anyone who wants to click through to it. We do use a squash commit for the actual merge back. So when you click that merge button as a maintainer at the end, it does do squash sort of history from that branch and use the commit message from the issue. And the reason we do that is because that's ultimately how it works right now with the patch workflow. Once a patch is on there, a maintainer had to commit that patch and use a message along those lines. So it keeps the history from ballooning quite a bit. Greg, was there a specific step of the process that maybe you were curious about?
I think you've given me a little more to go on now, so I'm starting to see how it makes sense.
Yeah, so there was a lot of there was a lot of architectural wrangling to figure out, do we do forks per issue, branches per issue? Do we have separate repositories and permissions? And ultimately, it was having this sort of fork workspace that all of the projects could be cloned to, and that we can grant branch access to any contributor who comes along, kind of turned out to be the easiest. And within that space, once you're working on an issue fork and a particular branch on that fork, you can force push, you can do whatever you need to within that contribution stream, you and any other number of developers. And an interesting tidbit is when we went back and looked at how many people are typically involved on an issue. I can't remember if we did this analysis for core or we did the whole issue queue at once, but it's there's an average of 5 different users chiming in on a given Drupal.org issue, which meant that ability to work in the same spot was really, really high on the list for what we're doing here.
Do new contributors need any sort of permission in Drupal.org to get access to work on these forks? Is it just a Drupal.org account, you're ready to go, or do you need?
Yeah, you do need. There's the Get Access Agreement, which is just an extra checkbox with some other terms of service specifically for Git users. That's always been there in D.O. But once you have created your account and checked the box that you say you agree to our Git terms of service, yeah, you're all good. Your account gives you everything you need, and just pushing that green button on any issue should give any new contributor that access. How many of the folks currently on this call do any sort of regular contribution activity on D.O? I recognize some names, but a few folks, not everyone. Okay. Well, it's actually, I'm glad we're reaching people who don't currently do any Drupal.org contributions, because coming out of this, what I'm hoping is that, and I've already worked with Amy June and some of the other mentorship folks about how they mentor new contributors at DrupalCon and at other events. We're hoping this will be a lot easier and more familiar to people who maybe have used other tools, right? So right now, the biggest barrier for any novice contributor to Drupal is getting local dev set up, and then learning Drupal's specific arcane way of doing patches for contribution. And that's just been tougher and tougher as time goes on. So if you've never done a contribution before, I would really encourage, and you are more comfortable with GitHub pull requests and things like that. Like, hopefully now this should be easier. Hopefully now this should be something that feels like, oh, this looks and feels and smells like what I expect contribution to be like. And maybe we can plug you in to a mentored sprint day or something like that at another upcoming Drupal event.
One of the things that many Drupal developers use today in the patch workflow is the ability to work on your custom website project and apply a couple of patches to it. How does that process work moving forward? Have you guys envisioned you recommend for best practices?
Yeah, so we're still trying to document some of this, but to expand what Greg's talking about a little bit, I'm sure almost anybody who's run any kind of Drupal site, like actually in the wild as a production site, has probably had to apply at least one patch to your code base, right? So you're probably used to your makefile has, or your configuration is pointing to some d.o hosted whatever .patch file in some issue. What you can do is you can, GitLab exposes for any commit, whatever branch it came from or whatever, you can get a plain diff formatted as a patch file. It's very similar to how GitHub has their secret, take any URL and put .patch at the end and you get a patch version. So you can do that on the GitLab side as a way to get patches. We're still talking with people in various channels, and Greg, I think maybe you've even seen some of these, about whether that's the best practice for your sort of production deployment workflow, or particular for Composer applied patches, right? So there are folks out there who are using the patch plugin for Composer to directly apply these sorts of patches. And we may begin suggesting that it might be a best policy to keep some of those patch files, committed on a local repo, rather than necessarily relying on a d.o remote. However, there's no reason that any of these these plain diff links that come from GitLab merge requests will go away. So they should be stable and available for that use. I see in the chat. Oh, Amber was
we've got a question from James, so I'll let you read that.
So the question is, can folks create a fork on d.o GitLab for a Drupal.org issue without using the d.o buttons for it at all? So like directly going into GitLab and clicking around. That is a really good question. The answer right now is no, I think. There may be a way to do it if you did it from the command line with like the right commands that your user has permissions for. But if I remember, Neil Drum on my team did most of the implementation here. And if I remember, there is a step, an API call on that green button to create the fork, where Drupal.org is communicating back to GitLab and assigning your GitLab user account the right permission to use that space. So I don't think you can generically just do your own forks.
We've got another question from Patrick in the chat. I would like to have a mentored space to practice issue commits to Drupal. Any links or workshops? Biggest barrier for me is not really knowing where to start. And I can answer that, or you can answer that, or Greg can answer that.
Yeah. Why don't you jump in, Amber?
This is a great question. I would say that joining an event that like one of the online camps, a lot of the Drupal camps are continuing on an online platform. And a lot of times there's a mentored contribution sprint. I think the next one will be probably DrupalCon Europe, which may not work with your time zone, but that's probably the next mentored sprint opportunity. The other part of that, like without waiting for an event is you can join the Drupal Slack. So if you go to drupal.org/slack, and let's see, what would be a good channel? I would say join the Drupal PDX channel and ask one of us, like myself or Greg or a number of other people in the group would be happy to point you to an issue. And like myself, I'm a co-maintainer of the help topics module. So I can definitely point you to some issues there where you can be working on twig files, something that's not too hard to patch, and I'd be happy to mentor you to go through that process. So, and we can learn as we go as far as the merge request feature. So, but
That's
yeah,
the other thing. Right now, everybody's learning the new process.
Everyone's learning that. Yeah. So I would say, like, Patrick, join us in the Drupal PDX, and you know, if it works for you, like especially like a Friday afternoon or something, like if you want to ping someone or just express an interest in wanting to contribute, I'm sure one of us would be happy to walk you through it or point you in the right direction. So any other ideas, Tim or Greg?
I've got just top of mind, another channel you could look at, although there is a mentoring channel in the Drupal Slack, although it's more for the people who do a lot of this mentoring to coordinate with each other, and maybe a little bit less for going in and asking for a mentor. But I don't think anybody would mind if you did ask. Like if you went there and put your hand up and said, hey, would anyone pair with me for a little bit? That might be another place to find someone in addition to Drupal PDX.
And which channel was that again, Tim?
I was suggesting just hash mentoring. And I'll put that in the chat as well. And then the last thing is, I happen to know, just because I was talking to Amy June about it, who also does some of the mentoring stuff, that Drupal Camp NYC is happening virtually, starting tomorrow actually, and going through Saturday. And they might have some contribution activities going on. It's not quite the same as the like super formal DrupalCon mentorship process, but they're certainly talking about, like, they've got a whole bullet point about their contribution day, and especially for new contributors. So I might check out that event as well. So that's 2020.drupalcamp.nyc. And again, that's this weekend, November 12th to 14th. And because it's virtual, wherever you are, I think you could join in.
I apologize for the drums in the background when I'm not muted. So my
Who
husband
doesn't want
teaches
their own
drum
personal
lessons next door.
parade?
So we're all online here. Anyway, yeah, there is a little bit of a learning curve, but the community is great. And there's a lot of really helpful people out there who would love to help mentor people into contributing. So yay, great question. Any other questions or comments or reactions? I just want to say this looks really cool. So
this is
thank
so
you for all
exciting.
your work. It's really exciting. I love buttons. It's great. I'm not trying to simplify the work there, but
No.
I know a lot of work went into that button. So thank you so much. And this is really great. And I think it really will smooth the path to contribution as well. So this is really wonderful.
Well, thank you for the kind words and the invitation. And for having me here to talk about this stuff. Like I said before, my username on Drupal.org is hestenet. It's in my little subtitle on Zoom, and I'll just put it here in the chat. So if anybody has further questions, you can also reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to chat. I'm in Drupal Slack. I'm on Drupal.org, of course. And yeah, happy to talk about this more, and hopefully to be bringing like even more contribution enhancements and other tools to the community moving forward. Like this, there was a lot of work that went to sort of catching us up to having these sort of modern pull request tools. And I think we've even managed to leapfrog a little bit ahead of that by adding the single threaded D.O conversation and adding like the live deployment previews from the Tugboat side and all those things on top of it. So it finally feels like we're sort of ahead of the game compared to a lot of other open source, and we're hoping to keep up that kind of momentum. So.
I also just want to mention, like, great job showing your work as an initiative with the blog posts and just showing your process and how you reached the decisions, the group of people that were working on this. So that's an excellent example for other initiatives and other people who are trying to get things done on a large scale in the Drupal community. So well done on that as well.
Yeah, let me add to that because you just triggered the thought. That's one of the things that we're also thinking about, right? So we spent a lot of time on these tools, but a big priority for the Drupal Association at large, not just the engineering team, is enabling more contribution and growing the contributor base in Drupal. It's really important to us, and we're going to make that a central focus in 2021 especially. So if there are people out there who are like, I think that there's something that should be an initiative, maybe it's a small initiative, maybe it's a big initiative, but I have no idea how to do that. Like, we want to collaborate with people who are interested in doing those sorts of things and come up with some processes. Like, there's all these people throughout the community who have basically just stepped up, thought, hey, there's something that's important. I'm going to self-organize an initiative around it, or maybe Dree said this was going to be a priority initiative, but someone had to step up to do it. And people kind of stepped up and built some processes together and looked at what some other people were doing, and it's always been a little bit ad hoc here and there, and we want to work together with everybody in the community and like create best practices and help point to the ones that are already out there. So again, if anybody's interested in that kind of collaboration, I'd love to chat with them further.
Awesome. This is great. Any other questions? I don't want to rush us out of this topic. Any other questions or comments?
I've got just one more. Is there any sort of cleanup process on these community issue branches or forks, I mean?
Yeah, I think we have an open issue to make a decision on. Like, it'll probably be X number of months after the merge has been accepted or closed without acceptance. We'll probably clean up that space. So it might be 6 months after it's closed or 9 months after it's closed or something like that. Because presumably by that point, going back to your earlier patch comment, by that point, it should have been somewhere in the rest of the commit history. However, if there are scenarios where that's not possible, we still need to watch out for that, so we don't accidentally break a production site that's depending on a never merged request patch link. So there is a follow-up issue. I'm not sure exactly where it is right now, but we're still thinking about that because eventually, yeah, we're going to need to do some real cleanup.
Cool.
Well, I have to say that this is pretty amazing what you all have done, getting that integration with the GitLab APIs. And it sounds like it goes two ways. So when something happens in GitLab, you get notified and you've got an API on your side?
Yeah, so between the APIs that were already provided in the GitLab codebase and some ones that we asked them to add while we were collaborating with them, there is sort of this a little bit of a two-way communication, right? So it's not just that the Drupal.org issue sets up the workspace. When activity happens on that merge request, it is being posted back to D.O. And the code we used to do this integration, I don't know if it's super useful, but maybe someone out there is part of a large enough enterprise site where you manage an internal GitLab instance, and you might want to look at some of these APIs. So if you do, Drupal.org/project/Drupal.org, which is where we stash a bunch of the custom code for Drupal.org, has a lot of this integration code. So you could certainly look at those sorts of examples if you're interested in doing that.
Oh, that's crazy.
Cool. Thank you, Tim. This was a special treat. And thank you all for joining. Let's see. The pin here. We're gonna have
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll for the end of this. So thank you all for being here. So definitely check out the NYC Drupal Camp. So that's 2020.drupalcamp.nyc. And it looks like there's also a first-time contribution workshop that's happening there. So check that out. I'm pretty sure that registration might still be open for DrupalCon Europe, which is happening in like 4 weeks or something like that.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So check that out. And, you know, you don't have to be in Europe because it's online. And so, yeah, I'm attending, I'm registered. And I'm excited to see some awesome presentations there. I'm assuming it'll be on I think it's going to be on the Hopin platform again. And
It's on events on air actually, but it's very similar.
Oh,
I was in
okay.
a test with the Quoney Congress team who's managing the tech side of the European event. So it's very
Okay.
similar to the Hopin experience, but it'll look slightly different.
Cool. Well, anyway, so that's coming up as well. Are there any other announcements or events that we should know about in the Drupal world? Because, you know, it's the most important world. No,
We've got enough of the wider real world.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I think we'll wrap up early. This was great. And I'll be posting the recording or a link to the stream. Hopefully that worked out. If it didn't, I've got a backup recording. So either way, we should be good to go on that. So thanks everyone. And definitely check us out in the Drupal Slack and Drupal-PDX, excuse me, and groups.drupal.org/Portland. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Amber.
Talk to you later. Thanks a lot, Amber. Bye.